everybody, this is Chris Bucci of TurboViews. Well, now that TurboViews is officially over, let's sit back, grab a snack or two, and kick back as we indulge in what I like to call the second half retrospective and revisit. In the second half of TurboViews, there were 67 games, and on this stack, well, I have a handful to pull out one at a time. However, unlike the last retrospective, I don't really have any bad games to talk about. Today, it's Positivity Central. So let's begin with the cute, fun, and addicting Bomberman 93. Man, I always enjoyed this puzzler. You know, I always called games like this puzzlers. I know that's not correct, but I like it anyway. You know? Anyway, I've always been a big fan of this one. To me, it's exactly what you'd want in a sequel, as it is more of the same, but kind of beefed up and even better. You know, I was familiar with Bomberman on the NES, and I did play it briefly, but ironically, I didn't have the first TG-16 Bomberman, a slightly reimagined version of the NES game, on Turbo Chip. I didn't play that game until 1992 when I snagged my Super System card and the Gate of Thunder Super CD. You know, with the fold-out card that showed you how to access the hidden Bomberman game. Yeah, so much for hidden. But man, I truly enjoyed it, and I couldn't wait to snag this sequel, which I eventually did. And you know, it did not disappoint. I love the arcade maze-like structure here, the cutesy design of the game, trying to find the exit doors, which most of the time is fun, except for once in a while, and of course laying down the bombs and blowing up your enemies. I mean, let's face it, that is just a super fun gimmick. But of course, you have to be careful with your cockiness because it'll definitely bite you in the Bomberman behind, which is something I find in general with this game and something I do to myself quite often. Plus, we can't forget it's a super fun multiplayer game. I mean, it always has been. It's a great 4.5-star game. Although I have to say, I still can't stand this boss here. It always takes me way too long to beat him. But at least the final boss is much easier. Pause. I don't want to show off the endings or anything here, but yeah, I can't say anything more except definitely play this one. Let's grab another 4.5-star game, shall we? Moving from puzzler to action-adventure with Dragon's Curse. Now this one is such a really cool and solid Turbo Chip title, and the history and uniqueness of it also makes it, well, unique, at least to me. Wonder Boy was a pretty big franchise of games, and it's funny, as a kid, I had never heard of them. So the fact that this game is actually a reskinned version of Wonder Boy 3, The Dragon's Trap for the Sega Master System was such an interesting piece of gaming history to me that I just thought it was really cool when I eventually found that out. You see, all the references to the Wonder Boy series were dropped here, and they made it a standalone title, which is how I knew it. You play as Human as you first escape from a castle where you're apparently being held captive. Then you become cursed and turned into a lizard man. And well, the game actually begins here. Because, you know, we can't allow that to happen, right? So you set off on an adventure to defeat the 5 dragons scattered around and find the Salamander Cross. In fact, the transformation gimmick here is a major part of the game, and unlike in the other titles we've talked about, Night Creatures, it takes full advantage of it in overall structure. You have lots of different terrains to visit with the main hub in the center. You got items to equip, swap around, purchase, and find. I like to call this a sort of mini Metroidvania. It's also a pleasing game to look at with lots of personality. I know I say that word a lot in my reviews, but I think it really holds true in a lot of games. It's fun getting deeper in the game and seeing where it takes you. I wasn't planning on beating it this time around, but I got sucked into the adventure once again. Pause. So, yeah, take that for what it's worth. Next, let's grab two in a row. Two of my favorite turn-based RPGs on the American TurboGrafx. To begin, we have Cosmic Fantasy II. This one I played as a kid, and the thing is, turn-based RPGs were not my favorite genre back then. So for something to grab my attention at the time like this was actually quite a feat. I also have to say that anything on CD-ROM at the time was always fascinating to me. You know, at the end of the day, I think it's the simplicity in controls and structure that connected with me and dragged me in. You play as Van as he goes to save his special girl, and let's not forget the entire planet. As you play, you'll find it shares very typical overhead view dungeon crawl layouts we've all seen before. I also have to give it up to the humor and the lighthearted dialogue. I mean, when someone reveals to you that they have hemorrhoids in a game, you know you're in for a treat. Working designs, you guys. There are way too many battles for my taste, but on the flip side, that also kept me from needing to grind too much as a kid, something I didn't really appreciate at the time, so I guess that's a win-win? Anyway, I didn't beat this game until I was much older, but I always enjoyed playing it for a little bit. It was very approachable. Then we have Dragon Slayer, a really fun fantasy adventure on Super CD. I never ran across this one as a kid, instead picking it up during the later years when I tried to complete my TurboGrafx collection. I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did, but wow, it really charmed the pants off me. You know, that's such a weird term, isn't it? But anyway, in this one you play as Prince Logan, a man on a mission to find out who has released monsters upon the land. Monsters who sadly killed his own father. And that's not good. Well, this mission takes us through 6 different chapters, each one with a unique layout, length, and set of goals. The story progresses quite nicely, and it's very engaging. Again, this one is also very pick up and play with its menus and controls. In fact, the auto mode baked in can be your friend at times. It sure was for me my first time through. Juggling auto heal and the auto modes as a whole was fun to mess around with in order to figure out the best combination. Some of the puzzles are unique, and it just exhibits a swift pace overall. Can you tell that I like this one? Dragon Slayer also has pretty good humor abound, some of which is slightly unintentional, spilling out from the cheesy voice acting. And by cheesy, I mean awesome. You know I love that, right?
Clumsy monsters.
I highly recommend this for fans of the genre. And next we have a little game called Fantasy Zone, a title that I have beaten a zillion times, but always feel the need to come back to again. I realize it's not a highly rated title by me and a lot of people don't care for it, but I can't deny that when I went through every single game in my second half, this little one grabbed me once again. So here we are. Sega released the arcade game in 1986 and ported it to many places. The TG16 version was released early on and is pretty darn solid, retaining most of the game's original features and sticking very close to the arcade. Plus, I mean, there's always something uniquely weird about Sega titles being on the TurboGrafx. You play as Opa Opa, and you go around destroying any cute little thing within your sights. In 7 of the 8 stages, you must destroy a set number of outposts, and once you do, the end boss comes in for the attack. And they really mean business here. And what am I talking about? This game is cute 'em up galore. It has a real 80s shooter feel to it. In fact, I'd say it takes a lot of cues from Defender overall. Aside from some missing layers and a little detail, this version is pretty darn faithful to the arcade, plus the music is really darn good. I know it's not a very long shooter and not the most difficult one either. I have lots of friends who really don't care for this title, but I think for me personally, when I feel like a quick breezy shooter that I can beat with not too much stress, well, maybe a little toward the end, this is the one I think of. Pause. Fantasy Zone. Thanks for the simple fun. Okay, just like the last time, let's take a look at the 5-star games. We had 5 of them in the previous installment, and this time we have 1. Wow, you know, none of this was planned ahead of time ratings-wise, but I still expected a few more of them at least. I guess that goes to show you that the 4.5-star games could have easily been 5s, so take that for what it's worth. Anyway, let's focus on the lone 5-star game, Beyond Shadowgate. I wasn't the biggest computer person in the world. However, in high school, I did choose Computer Club, and I played the original point-and-click Shadowgate on the Apple Macintosh there, along with later snagging the NES version, which I played the most. So I couldn't wait for this sequel, and the fact that it was a TurboGrafx exclusive also made it exciting for me. I have to say, however, that ICOM simulations had always been hit or miss with me, so I was very pleased to see that with Beyond Shadowgate, they pulled out at all the stops.
The behemoth turned on its former master.
While this one is a point-and-click adventure, unlike the original game, it is from the perspective of a platformer. You have more control here and can even attack a little. The puzzle solving, proper usage of items, watching out for traps, etc., well, all of that is the same as before. In fact, dying happens a lot here. There are so many awesome ways you can die, it can be fun to find them in subsequent plays. There is a lot of trial and error as you solve the puzzles necessary to move ahead in the story. Searching around, talking to people, purchasing tools for use, etc. is all part of this. I was always impressed at the visual style too. Every scene feels like a storybook page to me. They're like painted works of art. I mean, all that's missing is a happy little tree here in the corner. Plus, the enemies and characters are all unique and funny, and some you could even beat the devil out of them. And nothing else looks or plays like it on the TurboGrafx. I appreciate games that are unique, such as Loom, which we also talked about in the second half. There's also nothing like that on the TurboGrafx. Oh yeah, and Beyond Shadowgate came in one of those oversized cases because they stuffed a poster in there which I used to hang on my bedroom door as a kid. A different time indeed. Once upon a time on Christmas Day, a young boy was ready to play. He received a new game, you see, for his TurboGrafx Super CD. He unwrapped the gift and took it apart, impressed at the look of the cover art. But reading the manual, his interest grew slim, as playing a storybook was of no interest to him. "What the f*** is this?" he would say, as he quietly tucked it far, far away. Until now. To kick off this review, I wanted to show you my personal experience with today's game. Welcome to Raiden. Along with the manual, you will find another friend, good old Gaia.
Hello there!
Duh. Jeez, a little warning next time. During the game, a character's stamina may get low. At this point, you might need a good dose of revitalizing sports drink. Gatorade H2O! Boo! I guess you're trying to scare your opponent. Boo! Oh, and, boo! Gotcha. And clay pigeon shooting? I swear the hit detection is a bit off. Oh, come on, I hit that clay. The heck was that? Finally, you have what the manual calls your girlfriend. She doesn't do much of anything but get freaked out by your newly transmitted health issue. Wow, thanks for the support, Cupcake. It's one of those games where you question how it ever got released. You know, maybe that's the joke. Maybe I'm literally missing the point of this game. I mean, I'm so stupid, I can't believe that. No, that's not it. And that is the story of Chris and a game he never gave a chance and thought was quite lame. But Loom is proof that fun can be discovered if you never judge a game by the manual's cover. Once upon a time, there was a peaceful, tennis-loving land. But one day, an evil tennis king appeared and made off with all the prize money that had been won by the people in tennis tournaments. On top of that, he used his evil followers to set up tennis courts based upon a membership system under which hardly any of the people could play? That son of a... Oh my god. Look, let's face it, that slow redrawing of the courses... Well, look at that. I know it's a cliche to complain about it in this particular title, but wow. So let's head to the verdict. Oh, come on. Oh, yeah, that about sums it up. Oh my god, enough already. Man, he bugs me. Bugs me.
Let the game commence.
Wait, that's who it sounds like.
Let the games commence, Gadget.
And with that, we begin the game in the village of Assassi. Assassi. Yeah, Assassi. In overhead view, starting with Assassi, you are able to explore many areas. Once again, we play as Sadler and begin in the village of Assassi. Yes! I was hoping so. So let's rev up the engine, flip on the siren, and like Roscoe Coltrane, chase down some baddies. We're in hot pursuit. I love it. Alright, let's move on. And, what the...
Hey man, thank God you're here.
Oh jeez, it talks. This can't be good.
Whoa, what the... Hey, I'm not evil.
Oh, I see. Happy. Sorry.
Hey man.
Duh. Oh, hey, Happy.
Oh my God, do you hear that? Listen to that music over and over again. I can't take it. It never changes.
Haha.
Hey, congrats. You beat the first dungeon. Guess what? The next one will be exactly the same, and so will the next one, and guess what? The next one will be exactly the same as well.
Come on, I'm sure things will change, right?
Nope, you'll get a new story via a still text screen, and it'll just throw you into the same dungeon.
Okay, well listen, I'm
Same graphics, same crap, different day. The whole thing's just so repetitious.
I see, well I really need to
And nothing ever changes. I'm saying the same thing over and over, just like the same things in this game.
Ugh, thank God we can quickly retreat in this one.
I even trapped myself in this stupid game, trying to find one small nugget of enjoyment hidden within the code somewhere. And guess what? It didn't work. No matter what, you do the same thing, expecting different results. Oh my God!
Alright, there's another death. Well, let's Yep, the game crashed. That's... There's nothing more to say. Let's pull a John Machita Jr. and grab a handful of quickies this time, all of which are worth your time for various reasons, starting with Parasol Stars. We might as well do a little more cute and cuddly before we close things out, eh? You know, Bobble was a game I played quite a bit on the original Nintendo. Now, Rainbow Islands I was never very familiar with, so as a result, I was excited to get the third in the series for the TurboGrafx and see what was new and fresh. The fact that it was another exclusive to the console also made it a fun thing. You got 8 different worlds, and you use your magic parasol to defeat all the enemies, which is quite a satisfying attack, I must say. And poof, you guessed it, you clear a stage. Plus, before you exit, you get a chance to grab a bunch of goodies tossed all around. The game even tosses in some fun bonus levels and hidden goodies. Not to mention, it's a fun two-player experience. I got this game much later in my collection when I was a kid, and I am so glad I did. How about a slightly different kind of action game called Vegius Tactical Gladiator? A game that is, well, part platformer, part shooter, and as I say in the original review, part acquired taste. The constantly moving screen and somewhat restrictive at times controls are different than typical games like this. All of the attacks at your disposal are pretty cool. The hovering is unique, the invincibility spin move is a bizarre strategy to master, and your ability to swap around upgrades is customizing fun. Plus, it's a bunch of robots, which to me is super cool. I don't know, I always loved this game. Give it a shot, but be prepared for something slightly different with a bit of a learning curve. Stop! Fun times. Speaking of unique ways to play a game, let's take a quick look at Sidearms, a port of the 1986 arcade shooter originally created by Capcom. Ah yes, now in Japan, the PC Engine got the HuCard version and a CD-ROM labeled Special, which had a, quote, Sidearms Before Christ mode with numerous upgrades. That title. But in America, it was released only on the chip form, or turbo chip form as we would know it here, and that's just fine with me because it's a really good game. I always appreciated games that took typical controls and tweaked them. Sidearms does just that, with button 1 shooting to the right, button 2 shooting to the left. Getting used to this play structure is fun and allows you to focus on enemy attacks from various sides. Plus, merging with the mech suit is awesome as you try your best to keep it. Yeah. Much like Forgotten Worlds, which we talked about recently, it's not the strongest shooter, but I can't help but really enjoy it when I'm in the mood for a unique way to play. Let's knock out 2 4.5-star games in a row. First up, Prince of Persia, a Super CD adventure platformer that, well, isn't quite traditional in its gameplay either. That seems to be a theme here, huh? Your goal is to open and find the exit in each of the 12 stages, plus do it all in under 60 minutes. Now that's nothing new, but this game has a real sense of trial and error, as you need to figure out where to go, use or avoid certain switches, open specific gates to lead the way, collect certain bottles, etc., etc., etc. You just need to figure the game out. But there's also a learning curve with the controls, as every movement is unique. In fact, mastering the controls is part of the game's charm. In many ways, the original Prince of Persia was a landmark game, and the TurboGrafx version does it justice. And next we have Dynastic Hero, another really fun, not Wonder Boy reskin. This one was originally Wonder Boy in Monster World for the Sega Mega Drive. As a kid, I was also not familiar with this. Now I love me some Dragon's Curse, as we talked about, and would be remiss if I left this one out. Of course, it's a very late release, and an extremely rare Super CD game. I will say that it's nice to see a rare game that's also an excellent game, you know? It's a fun adventure action game where you talk to everyone to figure out what to do, find items, and fight bosses, finally accomplishing certain goals. Now, unlike Dragon's Curse, which had the major gameplay gimmick of transformation, Dynastic Hero tosses a bunch of gimmicks in, but they last for a shorter time. There are so many, it actually was my favorite aspect of the game. Now, I don't recommend you spend the cash ever, but if you're a fan of this series, definitely play this one if you can. And finally, I can't not talk about Time Cruise, the last of the pinball simulations on the TurboGrafx 16. Time Cruise is less organic than the Crush series, but has its own unique feel and design, along with a huge main playing field. It is split into so many sections with numerous passageways to shoot through. It has your typical set of pinball goodies too, like pop bumpers, spinners, flippers, insert lights. Plus, the proprietary chance stages are cool, with a bunch of unique mini-games, often deviating from actual pinball at times, which I kind of appreciate here. It does a faithful job staying true to pinball and is a solid turbo chip entry. Keep on flipping. To wrap things up, let's quickly look at the final 2 episodes of TurboViews. Although bittersweet, I have to talk about Soldier Blade and Ys 3 Wanderers from Ys. You know, it's funny, the last 2 episodes are part of 2 of my favorite series of games on the TurboGrafx. And you know what? That wasn't planned or anything, so it's kind of a nice, happy occurrence. Soldier Blade, the final entry on the PC Engine, unlike the game before it, Final Soldier, made its way to American shores. And I was there at launch, which was a rare thing for me to say back in the day. I rented Superstar Soldier numerous times and loved that game, but I had a hard time finding it in stores, purchasing it much later than I would have liked. Well, I was definitely not letting Soldier Blade pass me by, and I'm glad I didn't. It's an excellent game and with so much great stuff. The unique weapon gimmick with the super shells swapping around your weapon after use is so cool. I also really enjoy the bosses in this game. They often attack using multiple patterns or even equipping previous weapons from previous bosses. It's just well designed. And of course, Caravan mode is always a fun little gimmick to add some replay value. Pause. And finally, Ys 3 Wanderers from Ys. Look, Ys 1 and 2 was a standout CD-ROM game for me. So after playing through that one, I went to track down the third. Yeah, I know, there's some weird stuttering going on in the background, no doubt. But you know, overall, if you can get past that, it's a beautiful game. I like how this time the game swaps from the overhead view of the original CD-ROM to side-scrolling. It reminds me of how Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 felt for me as a kid. Speaking of, Adol has a super fast slice with his sword. It's almost comically fast. In fact, the entire game is very speedy, as you can find Adol zooming up the stairs. As usual, talk to people to figure out where to go, read the text, or listen to the voiceover, which here is cheesy as hell. It's definitely not as strong as the previous game. The really cool variations of the ring powers. They come up here and there and are very unique. You know, I say unique a lot, huh? I guess I'm just a broken record. Anyway, it's not as epic as Ys 1 and 2, but it is a solid CD-ROM game and a fun action-adventure RPG mixture. And that's it, folks. Thanks for joining me for a little look back at a handful of games in the TurboViews second half. As always, I really appreciate your support over the years. This has been a lot of fun. And until next time, this is Chris saying take care.